Hello and welcome back to Tits, Tums and All Things Mum. I'm here with the lovely Hannah from Sleep Well with Hannah today for your, third episode?
It is my third episode. Yeah.
Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm good. Busy. It's middle of the summer holidays, but
God,
good.
It's mental, isn't it? And you're self-employed as well, like me. So it's trying to juggle. Like people talk about the juggle, don't they? But the juggle becomes way harder when you're in the summer holidays.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the first year that my husband's working with me on my business.
Yeah.
So we're juggling the 3 kids between us and the business between us. So I honestly don't know whether it's easier or harder.
I'd end up losing my shit. I couldn't work with my husband, I swear. Because like him going out for the day, like to work, almost gives me that little bit of like focus. And I think if me and him were working together, I think we'd end up getting a divorce.
I think the hardest part is when I think that I've finished everything and I've finished my to-do list. Yeah. Then he'll be like, right, Hannah, I need this and this and this off you. Because he's kind of needs my things in order to get on with his side of the job. Yeah. So I think that's the hardest bit because I think I'm done. And then he's like, nope, you're not done.
I love that you're working together though. It's so cute. It's really nice.
No, it's good. It's going well so far. Fingers crossed.
So could you tell everyone a little bit about you?
Yeah, so my name's Hannah Love. Actually, and Love is my maiden name. Costello is my married name, but I started my business before I got married, which is why I kept my maiden name. And
plus
I love
it's
mine.
cute.
Yeah, it's cute. And my career started in 2000 when I qualified as a paediatric nurse. And then I went on to study nutritional therapy for 3 years, craniosacral therapy for 2 years. And then I spent my 20s travelling around the world as a nanny for professional golfers. Got to travel to lots of different places. I went to the Masters in Augusta and Sun City in South Africa and Hawaii, to the $1 Million Championship. And it was then that I really formulated my gentle approach to sleep because I had to get the babies sleeping well wherever we were in the world. But Dad had an incredibly important round of golf the next day, so I wasn't going to be leaving them to cry, and so I was supporting them to sleep well. And at the time there really wasn't any kind of thing as a sleep specialist back in the early 2000s, and so I was meeting people. I started working for the NCT and for Sure Start Children's Centres, and I was a principal nutritional therapist for the National Nutrition Clinic. And through those avenues, I was doing first aid training courses, weaning courses, nutritional consultations, and all anybody wanted to talk about was sleep. So I'd mention that I was a nanny, I was a maternity nurse, I was a paediatric nurse. They say, can I pick your brains about sleep?
They're like, cool, I don't care about anything. How do I sleep?
No matter what they'd come to me for, that's all they wanted to know. And I soon learned that I couldn't resolve half of the issues that parents were facing without addressing sleep. Yeah. So if there was weaning issues, there was babies that weren't weaning onto solids well, they weren't putting on weight, and lots of other things that if I didn't address the sleep side of things, then the nutritional side of things weren't going to be resolved either. Yeah. So, and I still work that way now, even though now 95% of the families that come to me, it's for sleep. Yeah. I never just address sleep. There's always something else that's going on, whether it's reflux, cow's milk protein allergy, weaning issues, whether they're uncomfortable. So I use my nursing so that, I kind of look at the whole picture and address that with sleep.
If only these damn babies came with a instruction manual, we'd be fine. You'd be out of a job, but we'd be fine because honestly, there's so many things. It's like you're both learning, isn't it? When you have a baby, they're learning what the world is about. They're learning how to sleep themselves. Yeah. And we're learning how on earth you deal with this creature that doesn't want to sleep. And it's crying and you don't know why. And it can feel like a very lonely place. It can feel like a very scary place. And that's why people come to people like you for help. Oh,
absolutely. And it's funny because this afternoon I was recording my new course, which is all aimed at pregnancy. So kind of and I said exactly the same thing. I said, babies don't come with a manual. And I think sometimes parents feel like they should be their own baby expert. Yeah. And that's just not the case. Yeah. And when you don't and you're thrown into a situation where you don't know what you're doing and your baby's crying and you feel helpless in that situation, and then you start to feel that you're not good enough. And I think so many parents that come to me are in that situation, and I was saying that is perfectly normal to feel like that, but you don't have to feel like that. That isn't how it isn't. You're not meant to know exactly what to do in every situation, but for with your baby, it's a learning curve for everybody, which is why I put the courses and the talks and the information together for parents.
And I feel like sleep is probably up there with one of the most talked about things as a parent, if not the most talked about thing. Like whenever you meet up with mum friends, it's like, oh, I've not slept, or I got a full 4 hours sleep last night. It's like the thing you talk about. But it seems to be the one thing that kids don't know how to do. Why is that? Like, why?
Well, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, it's a talked about topic because if you're not getting enough sleep, of course, I mean, it's you just can't function properly. And I mean, I think that any parent is going to tell you, even myself. And I mean, I've been helping babies sleep well for many years before I had my own babies. But of course, I still had sleepless nights. There's no getting away from it when you've got a newborn baby. But I think that the biggest thing is to know that it's normal for babies not to sleep, but there is always something that you can do to help them. I think often sleep deprivation, especially in the first few months, is very much normalised, and parents come for help to the health visitor or to the GP and say, it's normal. It's normal for your baby to be crying. It's normal for your baby not to be sleeping. And actually, it doesn't have to be normal. There are always things that you can do, especially if you're in the most exhausted place you've ever been. You don't have to be struggling like that. And I think that's the message, the biggest message that I want to get out to parents, is that no matter what situation they're in, there is always something that you can do to resolve it. But also to have realistic expectations, because there's some parents that come to me, oh my goodness, I'm so exhausted, and they're up once a night feeding their baby, and I have to be honest with them and say, actually, the situation that you're in is pretty fantastic, and most parents would be giving their right arm to be in the position you're in. So it's a little bit of being realistic and a lot of making sure that people know that there is help out there.
I'm glad that you acknowledge both sides, because I have come across sleep coaches out there that are like, I can have your baby sleeping 12 hours a night from 3 weeks, and I'm like, come on, like, come off it. What 3-week-old baby sleeps through for 12 hours? Like, I know there are some out there who will, but the majority of them probably will not at that age, because they still need feeds and all of that. And I think a bit of like a reality check, because I see so often on these Facebook groups, these like mum Facebook groups, where mums, bless them, will go on there and be like, oh, help me, I can't get my child to sleep through the night. Like, they're only sleeping for like 6 hours at a time. And I'm like, 6 hours? That's a dream. Like, I can't even get my 3-year-old to do that, let alone a 6-month-old. So I love that you have that bit of reality in there as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And I never make false promises. I think that's always that I've done. When I start off with my main sleep programs, I always aim for example, one of the things that I do is I aim for 10 hours overnight. And so many parents come to me, I need my baby to sleep 7 to 7. I'm like, with most babies, that's not realistic. There are some babies that will do 7 to 7.
My 6-year-old still doesn't even do that.
and also when they get older and they're going into the toddler years, and like, oh my goodness, they used to sleep so many hours and now they're fighting going to bed. And I'm like, well, as children get older, they need less sleep. My 16-year-old goes to bed way after I go to bed. And we're just in that area with my 12-year-old. She's now, you're not going to sleep before me, are you? And I was like, well, unless you're going to sleep pretty quickly, then yes, I probably am. Because they get to the age where they don't actually need that much sleep. And when you're someone like me that needs a lot of sleep, that you're not going to be waiting up for them to go to bed.
I know. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Cover My Bubble. Emma and Chris lost their baby girl Lily Beth at 1 month old and faced financial struggles on top of their grief due to not having life insurance. Now they help others by offering insurance for parents, children and bumps, covering critical illness to income protection. Visit covermybubble.co.uk to cover your bubble. And my daughter, I think she is just a natural early riser. And you get ones like that, don't you? And we have tried different things with her. And it's got to the point now that I'm just accepting that she's an early riser. My husband's the same. Yeah. He will go on like a weekend away as a couple, and he'll still wake up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock even when we're away.
Oh, isn't it so annoying? My husband's the same.
I'm the opposite. I could sleep for 24 hours, wake up, have a meal and go back to bed, and I would sleep. So we're just very opposite, and I really wish that my kids had inherited my sleep patterns. They have not. They have inherited my husband's, but it's just kind of recognising they might just be like that. And some people, I struggle to get to sleep at night, and my son's like that. So it's just recognising those patterns.
Oh, absolutely. And there's these comparisons which aren't healthy. I think lots of families, like with my eldest, Oliver, he was one of the 12-hour babies and self-settled from the beginning, stopped all of his nighttime feeds at 8 weeks old, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've got this nailed. and I thought that it was all to do with me and all the experience that I've got. But of course then Ella and Henry came along and proved that was complete rubbish. And they did have other issues. They had cow's milk protein allergy, they had reflux, and so they found sleep much harder naturally. And Henry, my youngest, is like a Duracell bunny, and he has never needed more than 9 hours sleep overnight. He is always jumping out of bed in the morning. But my husband's saying the other morning I sent a message to my friends, and I was lying in bed with a cup of coffee and I took a video, and my husband was chopping down a tree outside at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the hell is this all about on a Saturday morning? And it's the same with children. They have different personalities, but the good thing about these laid back babies or the Duracell bunnies is with my youngest and eldest is now my 16-year-old. Oh my God, trying to get him motivated to do anything is an absolute nightmare. So this laid back baby becomes bloody frustrating when they're older. Whereas my 8-year-old little Duracell bunny, when he was a baby, it was a nightmare. Now you only have to ask him once to do something, and he's mummy, I'll go and get your phone. I'll go and do this. Look, what can I do for you? And so there's benefits and there's disadvantages of all personalities, I think.
I remember literally like rotting in bed until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I was younger. And like I regret all those hours that I've now lost in my life to my bed. So actually later in life, when Bella is like a teenager and older, I'll actually probably be grateful that she's an early riser and she gets up and just enjoys life instead of rotting
motivated
in bed. But the newborn phase of sleep I'm going to say it's fucking brutal. Like it is the hardest part, because sometimes they're sleeping for like maybe 45 minutes at a time, and you in that time, there's no way you can fall asleep in that time. You kind of tend to doze off and then they're up again. How can we make that easier?
There are so many things, and I think this is where the misconception is that everybody's like, you've just got to put up with it. And I think often that parents, when they fall pregnant, all of the focus is on the pregnancy and the labour and the delivery of a healthy baby, which of course is so important. They do an NCT class, which does a little bit about feeding, but most of it's focused on the birth and your birth preparation. And actually,
that's the easy bit.
Well, it's something that you don't have a lot of control over either with most points. But actually, what research is showing more and more now is how important baby preparation is. And that isn't only just to make sure that you're prepared. It's for mental health. It reduces postnatal depression. It reduces postnatal anxiety. And if you can prepare for the baby and have conversations with your partner about where you want your baby to sleep, everybody goes out and buys a Moses basket and then ends up contact napping for the first 3 months, for example. And by the time that you resolve that, the Moses basket, they've grown out of the Moses basket.
Brand new, like never used.
But if you buy the Moses basket with the intention of your baby going to sleep in the Moses basket. So there's different types of parenting, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to contact nap. I'm not saying it's wrong to go sleep, to feed, to sleep, to sit there cuddling your baby all day. But there are parents that actually want their baby to sleep in the cot. They need to get things done. I went back to work with all 3 of my babies within the first couple of days of them being born. I was working for myself. I didn't have the luxury of any maternity leave. And so I needed them to be napping. I needed them to be on their backs in their cot and sleeping independently. And there were things that you can do, and I wish that I brought my baby along to show you, but if you hold your baby on their back in your arm, for example, rather than on their tummy, on their chest, then they're much more likely to settle in their cot. Because if they get used to sleeping tummy to tummy and then you try and put them down, then they're going to wake up pretty quickly. So just simple things like that, encouraging. You can still have the cuddles, because babies, as you know, newborn babies are sleeping for kind of like 20 times a day for 19 to 20 hours a day, even though it doesn't seem like it because they're having to sleep on you and you're trying to help them the whole time. But you can still have those cuddles, you can still have that contact napping, but also practice them going down on a firm surface. Try to hold them on their back. Opt for things like the pram rather than the sling, so that they get used to sleeping more independently. And that's going to make it easier for them to learn to sleep well in an independent space. And all of these things can be right from day one. It's not about sleep training a newborn baby. It's just about encouraging the habits that you want from your baby from day one. So many parents fall into, like, I had one family that contacted me that mum was bouncing underneath, doing deep squats underneath the extractor fan in the kitchen while dad was hoovering, while they're both singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And they'd layered all of these things on. The baby was about 3 months old, and they got to the point where they couldn't do any more. So the deep squats, the extractor fan, the hoover, the singing and the patting, and they physically couldn't do any more. And so they'd stopped at that point, and they were consistent with it. And now this baby was sleeping beautifully with those 5 sleep props. But the baby didn't need those 5 sleep props. The only reason why they needed those 5 is because that was the only time that the parents were consistent. If you're consistent with 1 or 2 of those sleep props, for example, a little pat or a rub on the tummy in the cot, or a rock on their back in your arms, then your baby's going to learn to sleep like that. But it's natural that when a small baby especially is crying, that you want to do more and more and more and more and layer it. And that's why you get to the point where babies need so much to go to sleep.
We did that with Bailey, my youngest. He had really bad reflux. And the only place that we could get him to sleep was in the car. So we didn't want to keep doing that. So we replicated a car at home. So we got one of these seats that they prop up like a wedge kind of thing. We got this vibrating mat that went underneath it, and we got car noise, and we'd get him to sleep like that and then lift him into bed, and he'd sleep okay in his bed in the end. But that was the only way we could then get him to sleep. So if we were out and about doing something, he then wouldn't go to sleep at all. So we stopped all of that. But I'm so glad that you look at the family, because back when Bella was really young, we tried to get some help with sleep, and, you know, they were like, you need to just leave her to cry. And I hated it. And now she's 6 and she still has to be cuddled to sleep. And I don't care. I like it, and I look at it as she's 6. In the next 2-3 years, she's not going to want cuddles anymore. She's going to want to go to bed independently. So I'm just going to make the most of these cuddles. Whereas Bailey, he will go to sleep by himself. Like, he doesn't need us to cuddle him. In fact, he doesn't want us to cuddle him. He's like, get off me. I'm trying to go to sleep. So we're just going with the flow, what they want to do. And it's quite nice.
Absolutely. And it's what you want as well. And that's what I was saying, going back to you. The first thing that when parents contact me for help with sleep is I ask why they're changing their sleep situation. And I even say in my book in the first chapter, I said there's so many reasons why you might want to address sleep. It might be because the baby's exhausted. It might be because you can't function. You've got a toddler that you need to run around after. You need to go back to work. The baby seems uncomfortable with reflux and you're feeding sleep, and so then you can't lie them down. All of these are fantastic reasons to address sleep in a baby. But so many times parents have come to me, it's like, oh, because my mother-in-law says that my baby should sleep independently. And I'm like, that's not a good reason. Because with any sleep training, even though I've never advised controlled crying, I've never ever advised leaving a baby to cry it out, just because when I was working for the golfers, it isn't something I ever did with the babies that I looked after, and it isn't something that I could have done with any of mine either. And so that's not my way of doing things. It's all gentle techniques. It's moving forward slowly, removing those sleep triggers that I was mentioning earlier. And But there's going to be some crying, and it's a change. And this is your safe place with sleep. It's yours and your baby's safe place. And to move forward from any safe place is going to be difficult. And so you've got to be doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And because somebody else is telling you to, or you feel that you should be doing, or society, you think that it's wrong to be cuddling your baby or contact napping or cuddling your 6-year-old to sleep. They're not good reasons. Yeah. And you do what you want to do with your children. Exactly. And the only reason why you should change it if it isn't working for you or it isn't working for them.
Don't get me wrong, I'd love that extra half an hour to an hour in the evening to do some work, but I'm already having to work a lot during the day when they're with me, and I feel like that hour of time is like our golden hour of just like us time. And we do a thing called silly bugger-lugs, which I don't know why it's called that. Bella called it that. And I read somewhere that sometimes kids need to have just a burst of like silliness and like energy before they go to sleep. So we have a little like 10-15 minutes of just being silly together, like tickling. She likes to lick me for some reason. She's got like a what they call cabin bed, so she'll like do some jumping off of that onto her gym mat and just going a bit crazy. And then we have calm time. She tells me about her day.
Perfect.
What's the best bit of her day. So that time is like our precious golden time where it's just me and her. So when she decides to get rid of it, that's when I'll get rid of it. But up until then, I'm making the most of just having like that time. So.
Oh no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you say about this kind of energetic and kind of burning off that energy in the silly time, because for many, when I was working as a nanny for many years, I would always get kind of all of the kind of like dinner and bath and pajamas and all of those things. And if the baby was still having milk, then I'd make up the bottle for the parents. And then the parents used to come in, and that would be quite often the only time of the day that they got any time to spend with their little ones. And that would be running around and tickling. And then when I had my own babies, when I've had Oliver and Ella, my husband was still working, and he used to come in, and that always used to be silly time. Always used to be running around the garden in the summer, tickling, all of those kind of things, bath time, splashing. And so many times over the years I've had parents that come to me and they have this really long drawn out bedtime routine. It's all like, the lights are off and they're not allowed to splash in the bath, and I tell my husband that he can't wind them up, and all of this time, so many times, and it's like 2 hours, and then we have essential oils, and then we have dim lighting, then we have a massage. And I'm like, so how is your little one when you're doing this? Maybe toddler, maybe a little bit old. Oh no, they don't like it, they're crying. And I'm like, well, this is a time when they're tired, they need the most entertaining. And actually, like you said, research has showed that building up those endorphins and having that happy time and that silly time and those endorphins going around, the more endorphins you get in those last hour or two before bed, the better the baby sleeps or the child sleeps. So it's exactly the right thing to do. So what I've spent the last 20 years changing around bedtime routines in order to add in that silly time and that fun time and that family time. And then, as you say, just that last bit before bed, that's when you bring things down and then you teach them to go to sleep.
But I feel like that's what you're taught in, like, I feel like it maybe NCT, I don't know, maybe somewhere else. I feel like somewhere early on in my parenthood journey, I was taught that it should all be like calm and quiet and dim lights and, you know, all of those things. And then I read somewhere about the like having a crazy time and like jumping on the sofa and all of that stuff. So that's when that came in. So it's like total opposite ends of the spectrum.
I've spent the last 20 years dispelling sleep myths that have been put out there for ages. The long drawn out bedtime routine, the putting down drowsy but awake, which simply doesn't work, the 7 till 7 overnight sleep, all of these things that come up that I keep. The sleep is developmental and newborn babies can't sleep to learn to sleep independently. All of these things are absolute rubbish. And I spend the whole time dispelling these myths so that parents can sleep well.
So many out there. Like, what are some of the other ones that I've heard, like putting them to bed in socks? Is that a myth? Or
I don't know, I've not heard
if you put them to bed in socks, they'll sleep through the night. And I was like, surely that's a load of bollocks.
God, if it was that easy, I don't think I'd have a job.
I know, exactly.
Shh, don't tell
Believe
anyone.
me, I tried. Because you know when you're so desperate for sleep, you're just like, I will try anything at this point, like put socks on that kid. But no, it didn't work. So there must be so many myths out there.
There's so many. I've got an information sheet that's in my community, which is just literally sleep myths.
Yeah.
Debunked.
Is the one true about sleep cycles and babies not being able to link their sleep cycles and waking up in between?
Yeah, so sleep cycles are there for really good reasons. Baby needs to wake up many times a night. It regulates oxygen levels. It's not safe for babies to sleep like we do and go into deep cycles of sleep.
Yeah.
So when babies are restless in the night, they're shuffling around. A lot of the time when parents say they're just not sleeping properly, that is how they're meant to sleep, because they're meant to be in that lighter stage of sleep for most of their sleeping time. They only dip very quickly into deep sleep cycles, because when they dip into deep sleep cycles, that's when oxygen levels can drop. So it's really important for baby sleep cycles to be short and for them to come out of them quite regularly. Generally speaking, baby sleep cycles last between 20 and 45 minutes. And if anything has changed from when they go to sleep to when they wake up, that's when they can't link the sleep cycles. And that kicks in at around 4 months old. The 4 to 5 month sleep regression is because of that developmental leap.
4 month sleep regression nearly killed me, I swear.
And it's because of that, because they get what's called object permanence. So they realise when something's changed. So if before 4 months you rock your baby to sleep or you feed your baby to sleep and then you manage to transfer them into that bed, and then they wake up after the sleep cycle, because they haven't got object permanence yet, they don't realise that something's changed. Whereas when they get to around 4 or 5 months, you rock them to sleep, you put them down, they come out of that sleep cycle and it's like, where the hell am I? It's like somebody picking you up out of your warm bed and putting you on the bathroom floor. You'd be like, oh, thanks, I'd go back to my nice warm bed, thank you very much. And it's the same for your baby. So that's when they start to wake up more, start needing you more. So any babies over the age of 4 months, if anything changes, so as if you sit there and you contact nap with them, and you sit there and you go through that sleep cycle, then they'll link the sleep cycle. If you're out for a pram walk and they go to sleep in the pram and it's moving, and then they wake up after 40 minutes and the pram's still moving and they're still in the pram, they'll link the sleep cycle. But the issue comes when you are feeding them to sleep or rocking them to sleep, bouncing them to sleep, and then putting them down in the cot, then they find it impossible to link those sleep cycles. And that's when sleep training becomes more important if you want them to be able to do that. So what should we do?
Get them to sleep where we intend for them to stay.
Yeah, so there's sleep really in babies is incredibly simple. It is literally having your baby go to sleep where you want them to remain asleep. And if you want that to be co-sleeping in your bed or co-sleeping, contact napping on you, or feeding and you don't mind feeding back to sleep, then there's nothing wrong with those things. But if you want your baby to sleep in their cot, in their independent space, then if they are waking up many times a night and needing you to resettle them, or if they're waking up short from a nap and they're grumpy because of it and you can't get the things done and you want those longer naps and the longer stretches overnight, then you have to teach them to go to sleep in their cot. And there is absolutely no need to leave them to cry it out to do that.
And if you were to continue like giving them a prop to go to sleep from 4 months up until say a year, would this just carry on, or do they eventually figure it out? The reason I ask is because my best friend is feeding her little 1-year-old to sleep and she does not sleep. She'll go to sleep for like an hour, wake up, she'll need feeding to sleep again. And it's just like constant. She's like, she won't sleep for me. What do? I haven't slept more than 3 hours in like a year. And I'm just like, you need to stop feeding her to sleep. And she won't believe me, but I'm sure it's that.
Oh, absolutely. So if you are feeding your little one to go to sleep at bedtime and nap time, and then they wake up overnight, then their sleep prop is feeding. And so they'll need that at those natural wakes that I've just talked about. And I mean, feeding sleep more so than anything else has other factors around it. So if you've got a 10-month-old or an 18-month-old feeding 4 times overnight, babies are so good at maintaining their own overall calorie intake that they will be taking less food in the daytime, whether that's through solids or milk in the daytime. And so you can't just say, some health say, oh, your baby's over the age of 12 months, just stop the nighttime feeds, they don't need them now. Whereas if they are feeding 4 or 5 times overnight, they will be taking less calories in the day. So really they do need those calories overnight, because if you take away those calories, they're not getting the calories they need, which is why the nutrition side of things, the weaning side of things all comes into play. And this is where, this is when I was working for the National Nutrition Clinic, I first started seeing this, because toddlers were coming in and they were literally having half a Pepperami and 2 Wotsits in the daytime. And then when I was looking into the whole picture, they were feeding 5 or 6, 7 times overnight and taking, if they're breastfeeding, obviously you can't tell how much is taken, but bottle fed, you could see that they were taking like 30 ounces of milk overnight. And then you said, well, it makes sense that they're not eating more than a pepperami and what's it in the daytime. If they're taking 13, 14, 15 ounces of milk in the daytime, they'll come in there, all they're having is one bottle and one pepperami and a what's it. And then when you look at the whole 24 hours, they're getting exactly what they need. They're following their weight centiles. And so the only way that I could help them nutritionally was to help with the sleep, because you can't just stop that milk overnight. You've got to find another way of the baby going back to sleep. So they have to have another way of going to sleep. Then you have to reduce down the milk slowly, have a look at how they're weaning in the daytime, and then they can then start to sleep well and eat well. And that's honestly one of the first things with the program. If you've got a baby that's feeding to sleep, the first thing that you see, the parents report back, they're like, oh my God, they're eating all the meals that I'm cooking. Nothing's going on the floor. I'm looking around the high chair and it's not there. And it's actually one of the most visual and most kind of, when parents have been making meals and they've just been thrown away for ages, it's probably the most satisfying parts of the sleep training program.
God, it's a bloody minefield, isn't it, being a parent? There's like so many different things that you have to think about, and different things that you should be doing, and so many different opinions out there on what. I think if I was rich, I'd just like buy you and just have you in my house, like telling me how to look after these children. Well, that's what I did for many years for the golfers. For the rich people. God, don't you just wish you could be rich and just have someone come and like just be like a little guardian angel almost. Me and my husband were talking about the things that we would do if we had lots of money the other day, and one of them would be a housekeeper to come in for 3 hours every morning. I'd literally have someone for everything, like not like a nanny to look after my children, but someone like you to just tell me, like, you need to do this, you need to do that. Someone to clean my house, someone to cook the food. Done. Sorted. Well, I've put it all in my courses. All of that information is in my book as well. So you need to give your friend your copy of my book. Yeah, I do. I need to give it to her. I'm like hogging it because I don't need it anymore, because I've decided that I'm not changing anything with my sleep. So I'm hogging it. I should give it to her. So I will. But shall we go ahead and spin the wheel? Yeah. Okay, I'm up for it. So, here is the wheel. Do you want to give it a good spin? Yeah. Oh, that was so close to rank bank. Right, but it's Q&A. Let's have a look what Q&A. I always get really excited about rank bank. Honestly, it's so funny. Right, Q&A. Ooh, what would you change about your motherhood journey so far? I think my biggest regret is not having any maternity leave with my children. At the time, I just set up my business and I was so busy helping everybody else's children. There was just no way that I could take that time. But I think I really missed out not having, not even a couple of days really, with just sitting there and just being a mum. So if I could change anything and go back, I think that would be the biggest thing that I would change. So you're saying it's hard now being self-employed over the summer holidays, but I can't even imagine being self-employed and having a newborn. No, exactly. Like, or a newborn and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. How do you even do that? With my husband working every day. Oh my God, I'd have lost the plot. And ironically, all of my children were born in the summer. So Henry was born in June, Ella in July, and Oliver in August. So I had them all off, all three off all summer. Oh my gosh, that must have been so tricky. And I didn't have any time off. No. And did your husband have any time off with you? Or he had a week off paternity leave with. I think it's so bad, the paternity leave that dads get. Like, some dads only get like a couple of days, and it's like, really? I think they've ridiculous. Now just changed it, isn't it? The minimum is two weeks now. I still don't think that's enough for them, though. It isn't. No, especially when everything is a lot more 50-50 now. Like, mum's going back to work a lot sooner. They're kind of dividing up the household tasks a lot more 50-50. So I think that they should both get an equal amount of time off. I've actually started going into companies to campaign for more company kind of like support for new parents and saying how beneficial it is for the company for the parents to be happy, as well as as well as beneficial for the individual as well. Because isn't it like France or something? They get really good Netherlands maternity is amazing. And paternity leave. And Germany is amazing as well. That would be amazing, because I think we're just, as a country, we're pretty rubbish at everything to do with parents. So like, although the childcare thing has kind of changed a little bit now, it's still not as good as some countries, and maternity, paternity, it's just not good enough. And
I think people are realising more and more the importance of supporting new parents, but unfortunately, well, let's hope with a new government coming in that paternity leave, maternity support gets improved. But
because even going forward, like flexible working and things needs to change a bit more. And because I don't know about you, whenever my kids are sick or anything, it's me that ends up having to go off work, and thank God they can't sack you for that, because I'd have lost my job by now. I've been off so many times with the kids. Yeah,
well, luckily or not luckily, whichever way you look at it, I've always been self-employed since I had the children. In fact, I set up my business when Oliver was a baby. He did come back nannying with me for 2 years, so we had 3 days a week nannying, which he loved. In fact, on our days off, he used to ask if we could go into work. But of course, they were understanding as well. But no, definitely, if there was one thing that I wish I could go back and change the time, it would be to have actually forced myself to have some time off for the children when they were born. Not put so much pressure on myself to do everything like us mums do.
Well, we do. Could you finish by telling us where we can find you online, and also where we can get your book as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So The Calm Approach to Baby Sleep, a kind and gentle step-by-step guide to help your baby sleep well. This has all of the information in it to go through my programme to get from wherever you are now with your baby to your baby sleeping well and independently. I also have a main course. I have a newborn sleep course. I have one that's aimed at new parents and one that's aimed at toddlers, and 15 parenting courses on everything from dummy removal to weaning to going back to work to toddler behaviour. And you can find me on Instagram at sleep_well_with_Hannah. I don't know why I put that in. Every time I say it now, I regret it. I also have a Facebook community of over 11,000 parents, which is a wonderful community. It's really, really supportive, and everyone's really lovely in there. And that's Sleep Well with Hannah on Facebook as well. Amazing. And you can also find me on all of the other channels as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. And as I said, we're going to have to bring you back again.
Absolutely. I want to be at the top of the leaderboard for the Poonami, because after being a nanny for
I love how you're saying
15 years.
For the Poonami. That's going to have to be the name of it now.
I have changed many a Poonami in my time.
Do you reckon you're going to be top of the leaderboard?
Yeah, without a doubt. I'd be really disappointed if I'm not.
You're going to have to keep coming back until you are top of the leaderboard. So for those watching and listening, we are making this more visual, and we're going to do a Top Gear style leaderboard of changing a Poonami nappy, and it's going to be epic. I haven't decided what the Poonami is going to be yet.
It's like the omelette challenge on the what's that breakfast
should it be
thing?
Nutella? Should it be like peanut butter? Because, newborn poo's not
Nutella,
like...
definitely.
Nutella, it's a bit... Do you not think that's a bit, smooth?
Mind you can't do that if you've got anybody that's allergic to nuts.
Crunchy peanut butter. Oh, yeah, that's true. Can't be doing peanut butter.
Marmite would
Giving anaphylaxis to someone with nut allergy.
No.
And Nutella. Yeah. I'll have to think of something. I'll have to make some sort of concoction up that resembles newborn poo.
Well, it needs to be more yellow, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. You'll have to help me with that. Custard.
Lumpy custard.
Lumpy custard. Sorted. That's going to be the one. That's going to be my job. Every
custard
time I come to the
cheese.
studio, I'm going to have to bring lumpy custard with me. Fun times. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on,
And
Lottie.
thank you to everyone for listening and for watching at home. Please do give us a like, a download, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you've been watching. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.